The biggest program in America to alleviate poverty just might be making things worse for low-wage workers. The question was posed in a report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which examined rising inequality in almost all of the 34 modern economies around the world. The report took note of how in America, low-wage workers have increased the number of hours they're working dramatically, about 26% more hours than in the 1980s. The suggestion is that single mothers have been forced into the workplace because in 1996, we ended welfare as we knew it by killing aid to families with dependent children. Meanwhile, we increased in the 90s the benefits under the Earned Income Tax Credit, which helps the working poor, particularly single-parent households with an income of between $10,000 and about $14,000. It may be, the study suggests, that the number of low-wage workers has exploded. That's pushed wages down, and that may help explain why the median wage in America has been stuck at about $500 a week for more than a decade.
My work is so hard.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, December 12th, 2011, and I am Darko. My website is GGNonline.com, that's GGNonline.com. Also, if you'd like to visit me on YouTube, it's DDarko2012. Alright, you saw a video there of wannabe Santa Claus throwing a rock at a bus. That'll actually play into a couple articles later in this video. I'm going to get going here. All the links will be posted in YouTube's video description. UK recession will be far worse than we thought, says the experts. British economy to shrink 1.3% next year, but mainland Europe could see a drop of 1.5%. It says here we'll all lag behind China, India. And just one quick comment on this this video. Well, not this one, but the one about the low-wage workers was what he said, $500 a week. It's like, dude, my last job, I'd be lucky to get $500 a week. I was busting my ass, man. I literally had to quit the job because I just, my injury, I got re-injured my ankle, my back, threw my back out, grocery stocking in the dairy department, and I was making $250 a week. So $500 a week, man. Shit, it'd be nice to make $2,000 a month. Okay, next up, Britain is in the grip of an austerity crime wave with 2 parts third rise in burglaries in parts of the country. And it says here that it's been hit by an austerity crime wave with burglary and robbery both on the rise. Experts said last night. Police figures reveal there were 9% more burglaries in October than in December 2010. Around 3/4 of the forces in England and Wales saw a rise in burglary numbers within the 2 months that were compared. So you don't have to be a criminologist, a quote expert, but the experts are going to say people are feeling the pinch with the loss of jobs and benefit cuts, yet people want to maintain their levels of consumption, so they hunt for bargains to increase the demand for stolen goods. Now, to a certain extent, that's accurate. There's people that are going to steal, big screen televisions. Now the question is, are they putting those big screen televisions in their home, or are they turning around and selling them and then purchasing other things such as food or to pay their bills? I don't know, but either way, the one fact that remains, and I've mentioned this before, is that there's people who usually have 3 options to survive. 3 options to survive. Either A, they can manufacture their own goods, i.e. farming, or some other good, and then barter. But of course, the economy and the government doesn't really allow too much of that to go on, right? You can't really grow a garden anywhere you want, because you'll have the code enforcement and the cops come and rip your farm up, or your little garden and that. Otherwise, the second option is to go and get a job. Now, if you're living in the ghetto, where it's just a concrete hell, you're probably not going to be able to grow a garden, and you're probably not going to be able to find a job. I don't know if you've ever driven through ghetto neighborhoods, but I have. I live within 2 hours of Gary in Chicago, and I grew up in Southside Chicago, so I've been through the ghettos, and it's like a nightmare. And trust me, there's not many jobs there. So you go and try living there and try actually earning a living. Good luck. So you're going to end up dealing drugs or stealing. So it's a third option to do if you can't find a job, if you can't produce your own, is you're going to steal, and that's what they're doing. And the people that are manipulating this entire show here with the banks basically taking over the future wealth, and people aren't even born yet, and that. Hey, you just gotta live with it. So, and that criminologist will probably say, hey, you know what? There's actually a condition, a psychological condition. There's something very wrong with you. U.S. consumers, says here, their credit increased in October, an indication that Americans are taking on debt to pay for goods and services while price rise faster than wages. And another, just a quick thing, because I want to move on here, is that it's disposable income, and that is what has gone down in the past, at least 2 decades significantly, is disposable income. It's that, and it's getting the mothers out of the home, right, and then putting the son into a re-education foster camp with the state, so they can be taught sex education when they're 5 years old, right? So that's the point, is to get the child, break up the family, get the child into a re-education camp, get the woman out working in the factories, and that's what you call social economic warfare, and eliminating disposable income that actually created middle class, allowed them to go to college and stuff like that. So, okay, moving on, Bank of International Settlements calls for hyperinflationary depression. Says here that on Sunday they issued an endorsement of coordinated action by the world's largest central banks to ease funding conditions for banks. A freezing of interbank markets in major funding currencies, as during the recent ones, may require the ability to supply official liquidity in major currencies in an elastic manner. This is what we've been hearing a lot in the news lately. It says here the Bank of International Settlements, whatever it is all for printing lots of money. It says here this institution is no small-time trade group. It's perhaps the most powerful, at least known global business body in the world, and its mysteries are manifold. And yeah, they were actually behind a lot of the money that was going between the West and the United States and the UK and Germany and that. And in World War II, a lot of the money that was stolen and stuff like that went to the Bank of International Settlements, where it was basically laundered. It says here that these 200 central banks around the world, actually, a lot of them report to the Bank of International Settlements. Then here, U.S. worried IMF loans to Europe could lead to losses. This is from Reuters. The prospect of European heavyweights like Italy or Spain turning to the IMF for rescue loans is worrying the United States and other nations that fear they could suffer losses on funds that they have extended to the IMF. So you go in there and check that out. But it says, despite the fund's stable record, no borrower has ever defaulted on an IMF loan, and no country has ever lost money lending to the IMF. Well, that's because a lot of them, usually the IMF loans out to poor countries and puts them into financial servitude, serfdom. EU may face breakup, unrest, U.S. general says here, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chief of Staff, Dempsey, said European Union faces potential breakup and civil unrest, says the Eurozone is a great risk, and that there's also the potential of civil unrest and breakup of the European Union. And so you may be asking yourself, what will this new union look like? Well, it's going to look a lot like the United States of Europe. It's beckoning, says Forbes. This was just 4 hours ago. I've been covering this for the past 2 weeks now, about this Federation of Europe and that, and it says here that closer union appears to be coming true, and it says the euro in its old form has fallen into crisis, an engineer crisis more like it, and the price European countries have to pay is a large loss of sovereignty. Nationalists would consider this disastrous, right? These are people like Nigel Farage that speak to an unelected body in the EU, especially Ron Pooley, right, calling them out. And yeah, that's what they are. They're just basically stooges for these banks. And a lot of them actually ended up working for these banks, and they just go back and forth and to create these packages, these quote stimulus deals. It's just money getting siphoned off and going to these banks, man. Speaking of banks and big corporations and Wall Street, President, I've heard his name now, Barry Chavez, so I've heard another new name for him, Barack Obama, who has been characterized as, anti-business by his political opponents, i.e. neocons, who are also big business. What a joke, man. Anyone that buys into this whole left-right thing is just really stupid. I'm sorry, but has received more in campaign contributions from business executives this year than in any other Republican presidential candidate. But it says here that the top contributors did not donate. Rather, the money came from the organization's PACs, their individual members or employees or owners, and those individuals' immediate families. So go in there and check that out. But basically, we have the University of California at number 1, Goldman Sachs at number 2, Harvard University, Microsoft, Google, JP Morgan, just your local mom and pop shops around the corner, right? Citigroup, Time Warner, Stanford University, Columbia University, and the U.S. government. What the heck? General Electric, who's on his economic recovery team. And guess what? The guy that was actually ahead of it, the guy from GE, the head of GE, actually cut a shitload of jobs. So that was his plan. Then, of course, IBM. Moving on here, Project Vote Obama 2012, ACORN, Obama 2012 campaign stops at nothing strategy. And basically, they're using ACORN. Obama's going to use ACORN again for his 2012 election campaign. Free markets, and he may actually get elected because people, like I said, are that stupid. Free markets, carbon tax, best way to fight climate change. Now, I know it sounds contrary to common beliefs and economic theories and that, but hey, free markets are going to work with a carbon tax. A carbon tax is not very free market. In fact, it's not free market at all, because everything that is produced from the factory to your door, including the gas to get it there, is going to be based off a carbon tax. So it's going to be priced up, marked up 10 times the amount. You think you're going to see that money? No, it's going to go back to the same companies and banks. Actually, it may even go to this new climate court that they've created with a new climate police that they have ready, right? And a world central bank that the Pope called for, and then the world central tax. So Kyoto, it's all coming together. Kyoto extended and Durban climate deal. So countries from around the world meeting in Durban have agreed on a program that meant to force all the biggest polluters to limit greenhouse gas emissions. And it's funny, why? Because China's all on board for this. Why? Because they're still considered a developing nation. So they're going to actually get all the benefits and the money for saying, oh, climate change and stuff like that. It's real, and they're going to get all the money, and we're going to pay for it, and they're not going to pay anything because they're still considered a developing nation. But these are the little tricks that were played by the movers and shakers to bring up the East, to bring up Asia, to bring up, in particular, China, and bring down the West. So they basically extended a 1997 protocol, and the United States and Japan, Canada, Russia have said they will not join the proposed extension of the treaty. And it goes on there and says it calls on major developing nations like China and India, excluded under Kyoto, as well as rich nations, to accept the legally binding emission targets in the future, quote, or not really quote, but we all know this. However, the deal does not openly bind any country to take on emission targets. Again, just to follow up, it says it does not compel any nation to take on emission targets, although the most emerging economies, i.e. the United States, UK, Australia, have volunteered. Oh, they volunteered. The people volunteered. Is there like I said, their livelihoods are going down the freaking drains. They volunteered to pay extra money to fight this just basically a big lie about climate change and the planet warming. Yeah, they volunteered to do that. So children as young as 5, along with sex education, are going to be taught about personal finances at school. They're going to learn about the rigged market, then and how the central bank is so great, and how they should pay their income tax. 1 in 3 will go into debt to pay for Christmas presents, then store Santa Clauses, taught to size up recession-hit parents' wealth and manage children's gift expectations. And speaking of Santa Claus, it's based off St. Nick. Well, St. Nicholas' existence is not even attested by any historical document. And you can see how the celebration of Jesus, Satan Claus, or Saturn, or Saturnalia, a holiday celebrated by the Romans, And Saturn is not only tied to materialism, but also Satan. And look at all these pictures of young people